everyone understands the current situation. We're all in this together, even employees and everyone like stakeholders, etc. It's all about transparency. Like we're having a 2-weekly meeting, even with the people who are laid off, just to give everyone an update what's happening in the company, what's happening in the industry, and that nobody's left outside. And that's what we ultimately want, that to be as transparent as possible within our stakeholders and customers and also our employees. So I'm Joonas Ahola, the CEO and founder of Meeting Package, based in Helsinki, Finland. What Meeting Package does is we provide technology for hotels and event spaces that enables them to sell their meeting rooms as easy as they sell their bedrooms today. So in short, providing online booking capabilities, transparency in pricing, and the possibility of managing the whole venue and sales management of their property. So in short, if you look at the whole meetings and events landscape and how meeting room bookings or events have been booked, and primarily the space itself, it's been done through a traditional kind of inquiry RFP process, if I may say it like that. What it means is if I'm a customer and I would like to have a meeting room for 20 people now in a hotel Y in a city, let's say Paris, what I would do, I would inquire or send a proposal, RFP, to the hotel and request to know the availability and pricing of that property. And to believe it or not, majority of the hotels, I would say more than 99% of the hotels and the venues work like that. So what it means is that the venue needs to take that RFP, create an offer out of it, put it into their back office solutions, and send that quotation back to the customer, which on average takes 1 hour of time from the salesperson in the hotel to do that. And that's why from a customer's perspective, typically the lead times for me to receive my offer takes like 24 hours, 48 hours, or even weeks, depending of the load of the hotel and how much RFPs or inquiries they receive. So what we do is we streamline that whole process, connect directly to the operational software of the hotel, get the availability, the pricing from there, store that in one venue and sales management platform, as we call it, allowing the hotels and the venues to create all the business rules and triggers on where they want to sell, how they want to sell, and giving them the possibility to put that all on an online environment, on a web environment, which means that we replace the kind of inquiry web forms, as we may call it, on their hotel's website, and provide an online booking engine that allows the whole booking possibility from end to end, from ad click into a Google ad until the point that the customer actually comes on site and holds that meeting. So we have 3 products. One product which we're primarily focusing at the moment because we want to help the industry during this COVID. So we want to provide the hotels and the venues the possibility to sell on their own channels, because of course their old channel is more, they get better margins, better profits, they already have it existing, and they can then automize and digitalize that process. Second product that we have is the distribution, what you mentioned. So we do have our own website, meetingpackage.com, which we're not pushing that heavily at the moment, primarily due to the reason that we want to solve the first issue, which I mentioned just a moment ago. And the second one is then the distribution. And we connect to various different distribution channels like CWT, which is one of the largest travel agencies in the world, or business travel agencies, providing corporate customers the kind of simplicity in travel, in flights, transportation, and also meetings and events. And that's where our product comes into place for the travel agencies. So we feed ultimately the content of the hotel to these distribution partners. And if we put the coin the other way around, so again, we serve the purpose for the individual venue and the hotel by allowing them the control over the distribution strategy, which means that they don't need to go into these individual kind of catalog websites or marketplaces. They can connect to them through our single point of API. And that's kind of where we want to ultimately be, that nevertheless, where the transaction comes for that venue or hotel, our technology is utilized in between. Again, on the hotel landscape or the venue landscape, we operate globally. Primarily, let's say our focus area is the European market, but we do have supply in over 125 countries today with live inventory and live availability. There are some global deals like Regis, which gives us access globally to their whole network, allowing us to feed our distribution network with their meeting room capabilities. And also we have chains like Nordic Choice Hotels who utilizes our technology on their own website also, etc. So let's put it like this. Finland is a small market for us. It's a great market to start with and kind of look at it. But if you look at Finland in a hotel chain environment, there's technically not too many hotel chains here because of the latest, let's say, companies merging together or acquiring certain companies, etc. So that's kind of when we're left with Nordic Choice Hotels, Scandic Hotels, Sokos Hotels, and that's more or less it from the larger chains. If you look at it, of course, pre-COVID situation, pre-COVID, everything was kind of starting to be normal. Everyone was expected this year to be much larger on the whole meetings and events landscape and travel, etc. But of course, now our industry is hit really, really hard due to COVID-19. And if you look at how it's been impacting is, first of all, travel is forbidden. Countries are borders are locked, hotels are closing, restaurants are closing, and the kind of corporate travel is non-existent. Like in revenues have dropped to zero in majority of our suppliers, and they've needed to close doors, even though they still have fixed costs from the actual building premises, loans, etc. So it's been a hard, let's say, 3-4 months, but thankfully we're seeing some light in the tunnel now. So things are opening up again, and we see some bookings coming in. So now lately we have more transactions than cancellations, which wasn't the case 3 months ago. So that's kind of a good positive sign.
Yes, I see. What do you see about the traveling within the nation? So inside the country?
Yeah, I think in general, kind of if we look at next growing demands and what I see is first of all, domestic travel will be larger than international travel. At least it will pick up quicker, which means that now when let's say Finland, for example, restaurants are opening 1st of June and so forth, or slowly starting to open, I would see, or my feeling is that people are starting to travel within Finland and kind of trying to find new spaces or new places to have their vacations and staycations, etc. And finding maybe even new locations that they ultimately before this would have traveled to, let's say, Italy or wherever, and now they might find a value within Finland. And of course, without taking flight transportation involved, you save some money there, which means that ultimately you can spend within the domestic market. And I think that's a good positive as opportunity for all the hotels and venues within Finland to start targeting the customer base here rather than the international travelers. So there's a lot of fixed changes that needs to happen. So in regards to marketing, in regards to your service offering, like there's a lot of hotels that have survived purely based on Asian travelers or let's say Southern European travelers or US travelers and so forth. And now they need to find a way to target those domestic travelers, those domestic corporate travelers, leisure travelers, etc. So it cannot be, the service offering needs to also change, if you understand what I mean. Kind of the message cannot be the same anymore, which means there needs to be operational changes within that premise and that operations to actually cope the message towards the domestic traveler. I think there's a few aspects to this. First of all, I'll answer the kind of new normal as I've been in a few other interviews, is that I believe, first of all, that the small and medium-sized events, the amount of them, the volume of them will increase. And one of the main reasons is this working from home culture, so to say, is here to stay. So large corporates, etc., will allow the fact that, okay, you can still work from home, which means that if their utilization of their head office or corporate office is below 20%, 30%, or whatever it is, there's so much fixed cost there that the company can start saving upon, which there's a lot of companies already in LinkedIn and so on. You can see that they have changed to the new normal in New York, for example, that they took away their leased property within New York, let their employees work remotely, and then they have taken a meeting space for 2-3 days a week to allow the salespeople or whatever to have those meetings in the city where the business happens. And that's kind of what I see is that will come as the new normal, and there will be more and more small and medium-sized events. And coming back to this again, like why technology is important is that if you would like to have a meeting now, tomorrow, can you really wait 24 hours to get a reply? Like the on-demand ad hoc meeting volume will increase, which means that the digitalization and the automation needs to be in place. That the whole customer won't be like, if I really want to go to that hotel and they don't have availability and price, will I wait for 24 hours or will I take the hotel nearby, which actually offers online availability, instant booking? I can book it, get it off my plate, cross that from my notebook, and done. I have a space for tomorrow. So it might be that the quality of the location will drop, or the quality need from the customer space will drop, because the most accurate one is that where is availability, what is the price, and what can I book today? I need to get it off my table so I can go to the next thing. And other aspects, so that's regarding the kind of working from home and small, medium-sized events increasing. The other thing that I do believe is for the larger events that the hybrid model is here to stay. And with hybrid model, I mean that there's online conferencing in combination with on-site meetings, that we have smaller groups of bunches of people meeting together within the online conferencing environment. And that's kind of where I see that we can have large events, thousands of people, coping that we have a gathering here, which takes 50 people, a gathering in Stockholm, which takes 50 people, gathering in Milan, which takes 50 people. And ultimately, what used to be a 1,000 delegate event can be now 20 different events with 50 people with the same main event. So these are kind of sub-events, which means again that 20 suppliers are getting business instead of that one supplier or conference center in this case. And I think that's an interesting topic, and I'm really curious to see how that evolves and kind of what are the needs from the customers. Because of course, if this is to become, it means that the equipment in the meeting rooms and the spaces need to be also coping this possibility. Of course, that's to be seen, and kind of I do believe that also in a sense that how much will there be synergies between event spaces, between each other. I have not seen yet, and I'm not sure how that will be, but that's an interesting angle to this kind of, if we have 200 people events that cannot actually cater 100 people or should not be in the same place because of security policies, etc. Can we tie them together, or will there be a bundle, so to say? That's to remain to be seen, but that's an interesting angle to this whole topic. I see this hybrid model is today close to zero, or not even zero maybe, but anyway, it's not yet here, because of course now due to COVID, any meeting has been forbidden. But of course now when the restrictions open and so forth, it gives the possibility of these hybrids to be and to stay. And there's been a lot of companies evolving their products and their roadmaps towards this kind of virtual conferencing possibilities that you can go. I attended, I think it was SaaStock conference a few weeks back, which was done purely online, that you had a waiting room on a lobby and you had the possibility to mingle with people, matchmaking, and then you had different stages where it was different topics going on. And it was an interesting experience. And I was like, wow, I can do this in my sofa, with my, let's say, with t-shirt on, without shoes and so forth. I've been like, hey, I can take part of this conference from home. I don't need to, like, if I need to go and take coffee, I can go take coffee and come back. Like, the idea was fascinating in that sense, but I still was missing that kind of, hey, I'm meeting you personally, exchanging thoughts and so on. And I think the big part of these larger conferences, which are not internal meetings, and now we need to make a differentiator between internal, let's say, corporate meetings and external conferences and exhibitions, etc. Like, for that part, I think it was still a little bit missing. That why I, for example, personally go to events is primarily to network, mingle, and to find people, and to maybe get advisors or whatever is the cause why I'm actually in that event. So it's not specifically always about the content, it's about the people who are listening to the content and people around it. So I think that was a little bit missing, but I think, again, if you can find, let's say, hybrid models that you have the content there, you have people grouping in, similar-minded people grouping in to the same location. It doesn't need to be thousands, it can be similar-minded, really grouped or niched people together, and I think that value will be the same. Of course, as stated earlier, the whole COVID has hit the industry quite hard, and not only the hotels, but vendors such as ourselves, technology vendors, which primarily customer base is driven by event locations and hotels. So it's needless to say that if hotels are closed, it's quite hard to do any sales, which means, of course, that we needed to have some temporary layoff regarding the sales, which is never fun. It's something that personally hits quite hard, and it's kind of takes the mental and physical aspect as an entrepreneur and founder also to kind of deal with the employees who are left now outside due to the COVID situation, it's not the reasoning is not the people's unperformings or anything like that. It's due to COVID-19, which again makes it a little bit hard that we need to lay off good, great people for the time period. But simultaneously, of course, we have looked at the angle for the whole COVID-19, that why we exist. So we've been challenging our existence also, that why do we exist? What do we really want to offer to the industry? Where do we want to position ourselves? And is our product solving this issue? And that's why we, for example, now have invested a lot of hours and time to allow our product to be utilized with a smaller barrier of entry for all venues and event locations alike, which gives them the possibility to take our solution free of charge and kind of being ready when the digitalized when the industry starts to bounce back. And that's kind of where we wanted to bring value to the whole industry and the whole ecosystem, is that, hey, we have a product, we have a technology which we have been selling as an outbound sales and kind of with heavy integration costs and implementation costs and so forth. Can we create an MVP? Can we create a simple version of our product that does the purpose, brings value, and has a low entry barrier? And that's what we have done now. So we launched last week a product, or the same product suite that we have with a little bit less features and a little bit more simplified version of it, that allows the hotels to ultimately use the booking engine solution, the distribution, etc., to be ready when the industry starts. And I think that's one of the biggest things in the industry, if we look at it, because it was human-driven, sales-driven industry. What this means is that once salespeople are laid off or terminated in the hotels because of the situation and the hotels are closed, how can they do any sales to the future? The answer is they cannot. They can sell their bedrooms because that's digitalized, that's online. But if you look at the meeting room side, if you don't have salespeople answering the quotations that Joonas sends to the hotel, how can you even sell 2021, 2022, or even, let's say, October, when we think that this whole thing is over already and people start to normalize? So that's the problem when things are not digitalized. They're completely stuck. So if hotels and venues would have been digitalized beforehand, which we see with our customers around the world, which have already been, they've been able to lock this period, put a time block between March and June, and start selling July, August, September, and so on, without any human interaction. And the biggest thing here comes is the cancellation policies. What I always say, don't start undercutting your prices because you're now in a crisis mode and you don't have business. That's not the thing. The people just want the confidence of, when I'm booking today, can I cancel it still in 2 weeks of time? Because the current situation is unknown. Nobody knows if it's completely open already, the whole world, in July or September or even this year. Nobody knows. But people still want to book. We see that. And the cancellation or the terms of use, those are the biggest things that restrict the customer in pressing that yes button. Exactly. That's the kind of thing that we also noticed is, first of all, people have time. People have the willingness of digitalizing, because now they don't know when will they get their salespeople back, and ultimately, can they bring them back right away? And do they need to bring them back right away if things can be digitalized? And thirdly, they have those, and they have the need. It's like the biggest, they have the need at the moment to digitalize and find solutions. We've seen we've got so much inbound leads during the last couple of months, which we thought that would have not happened. The biggest difference is that inbound leads, their investment possibility is close to zero. So they don't have the possibility of investing, because if hotels are closed and so on, they typically are in investment freeze, so to say, which means that they are a little bit looking, scouting about products, which can we upgrade and so on. Yeah. If a hotel now or venue has the possibility to invest, I would recommend anyone to invest the whole architecture, talking about property management softwares, revenue management softwares, CRSs, GDSs, whatsoever, that they would look at their infrastructure today and can we update this legacy? Because in this industry, there's a lot of legacy, which means that the costs are high. Nevertheless, if you utilize it or not, it's not done on a subscription wise or kind of per usage wise. And there's a lot of legacy. If you want to change something, you need to pay extra and so forth. But then there's the new generation products where we also come in, and like Muse from property management software from Holland and so forth. They have the possibility of kind of innovating through this whole COVID-19, giving the possibility for the venues to kind of come on board quickly and scale as they scale. And that's ultimately the logic that we want to bring, is that, okay, we will get money eventually or revenue from these customers. We trust that our product is the best in the market. We believe that the industry will bounce back. Like the CEO of ICC said, that virtual meetings will replace real meetings when virtual honeymoons replace real honeymoons. And I believe that, like, the meetings are here to stay. They will continue, but it's just a matter of delay now, and who survives this crisis and who doesn't. And what happens after the crisis is that the digitalization is the next big thing. And if you're not investing now or looking at solutions now, you're going to be hit much harder than the ones that are ready for the new technology.
Yes. So I feel like today we are facing this crisis, coronavirus. But if you don't act now, if you don't digitalize your business, then after this corona crisis is another crisis that you have to face, because you was like set back compared to others on the market.
Yeah, in stubborn, or what could be a right word. I love the meme. I don't know if you have seen the meme in LinkedIn, for example, that which part of your company refractured the digital transformation, like CEO, CFO, or COVID-19? And I think that's a great meme, even though it's a sad topic, but that explains well the situation in corporate organizations, which been like anti-co-working from home or working from home culture, that people are not being allowed, and you need to be in premise, and all of these conferences, meetings, and so on. Kind of people are starting to see that there's technology there. There's more Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams calls and so forth happening, which could have happened already 5 years ago. There was no technology barrier on that. The solutions were there, but there was not the jump needed.
Yeah.
And I can see, as you said, this is a potential for us, and it's a tough period during these months, but I think the kind of future is really promising for us. Yeah, looking at these eye bags and hair going back. So yeah, we need to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. The whole entrepreneurship and running a business and a company. So there's ups and downs, and the biggest thing is the support from your colleagues and your organizations and the transparency. Like, believe it or not, everyone understands the current situation. We're all in this together, even employees and everyone, like stakeholders, etc. It's all about transparency. Like, we're having a 2-weekly meeting, even with the people who are laid off, just to give everyone an update what's happening in the company, what's happening in the industry, and that nobody's left outside. And that's what we ultimately want, that to be as transparent as possible within our stakeholders and customers and also our employees. But when it comes to entrepreneurs, I think one of the best things in Finland is a small country. There's a link between everyone. Somehow someone knows someone who you want to talk to or get advice or guidance. It's just a matter of asking it. So don't be, let's say, stubborn and try to do everything yourself or face the issues yourself. We are all struggling here together, and somebody has solved that issue already, which you might be facing today. And I think those are the main principles, and the best part, or the most important part, not best part, but the most important part, is to take care of yourself, like health, sleep, etc. Because at least as an SME or a smaller company, if you don't, let's say, you burn out or you're not taking care of yourself, that's the most worst thing that can happen to a company during a crisis mode, when people are laid off and you have more stuff on your own shoulders than typically on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's one of those things, to remember to take care of yourself and then listen to others and seek for advice. As an entrepreneur, or even just a human being, there's so much data out there. There's so much written knowledge and kind of YouTube videos, etc. Whatever you want to do, you can nearly train that at home. So it's a matter of kind of taking that extra mile, extra step, and maybe pushing towards what you ultimately always have wanted to do. Like, there's a lot of people now unfortunately laid off due to the current situation in different industries, not only hospitality, but in general, because revenues gone down and so forth, restaurants, hospitality, travel, whatsoever. There's great people there, and kind of what we've seen also is a few syndicates happening, like people from different companies started their businesses together, and kind of there's a lot of possibilities now for new entrepreneurs to jump in. And what's better timing than during a crisis mode to kind of establish your company and see what actually matters for people, and kind of stepping up from here is much easier than facing this right away. And I would say I encourage everyone to kind of do what's in their heart and what feels right. And now, exactly as you said, there's time for majority of the people. There's a lot of information out in the web. So there's not really, in 2020, there's not much barriers, so to say. You can establish a web shop and sell in any country, or you can establish a company to do whatever is in your heart today.
Yes, beautiful. I couldn't agree more. And I think if people really take your advice and really try something that they've been thinking about but haven't had time for, 10 or 20 years later, they might feel thankful for COVID-19 for changing their life. So hopefully it will happen for a lot of people.
Yeah, let's say, talking to entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs or large, medium-sized entrepreneurs or companies that they run, I haven't heard many times that they regret that decision. It's typically the first jump, which is the hardest, and then people are just understanding that this is the new normal. This can be, you can be a small company just selling consultancy hours, freelancing. It can be so many different things, but I always say that do what you love, and that's the biggest thing. Kind of, if you have passion towards what you do, then even these struggles, you will survive. I just encourage everyone to, again, help each other out and then talk, and don't be stubborn. I've been that some in the past and thought that I know everything myself, which is not the case ever. So seek for advice and also be open for giving advice. So both ways, it needs to work both ways.